Alright, in this lesson I'll show you how to create histograms with Matplotlib. And histograms are particularly effective for showing distributions, or basically telling a story of how data is spread out. So I'll be utilizing the Google dataset from the Pandas Data Reader library. So let's go ahead and execute the code from a few lessons ago to load that financial dataset. So Google's stock has fluctuated quite a bit since it went public in 2004. You can see here that its stock price generally started in the double digits. We can see 49, 50, 54, and so on. And then right now it's in the 700s. And it's basically been everywhere in between those two numbers. Let's say I wanted to create buckets to basically take a look at Google's stock score within a bucket of 100. So let's say I wanted to see how many times its stock was between 0 and 100, and also between 100 and 200, and then between 200 and 300, and so on. So buckets of 100. So let's go ahead and create a custom function that's going to take our stock prices and then basically return the classification of what bucket it's going to fall into. So I'm going to create my new Python function. I'm going to call it custom round, and it's going to take a stock price as always. And then what it's going to do is take this value, and then I basically need to put it into a bucket. So what I can do is take each stock price, let's say divide it by 100. I'm going to put 0.0 in there just to be compliant with old versions of Python. So for example, for all of these values here, this is going to return 0 point something. So what I want to do then is make sure I take the integer to chop off that decimal component, and finally multiply the final result by 100 to get the classification. I'm then also going to make sure that I want to return this value, and I just figured this out before I started this lesson, but to demonstrate how this function works, if I do something like custom round 49.96, which is our first open price, it's going to give me 0. Once I cross over 100, let's say 113.6, it's going to give me 100. Once I cross into the 500s, 535.82 or 92, it's going to say 500, basically rounding down to the lowest, to the closest value of 100. So let's take a look at what happens when we call the apply method on one of our series. Let's do the high series. I'll extract it with my bracket syntax. And then, of course, let's call the apply method and give it the function argument of custom round. So it's going to apply this operation to every value in my high series. So there we have our classifications. And there's two things I want to do here. The first is to take a value counts method, just so we can aggregate this information and take a look at how it looks. And right here in our index, we're actually getting the buckets, so to speak, but they're sorted in order of most occurrences to least, and that's a little bit confusing for me because I have two different numeric values on each in each row. So what I want to do here as well is call the sort index method, just so that we have this series where we have the buckets organized in order here in the index, and then we see how the counts are distributed, how many stock prices fell into those buckets. So there were 157 performances in the high column between 0 and 99. There was 414 between 100 and 199, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing I want to do. The other thing I want to do is to take this whole operation. This is giving me the entire series with the operation applied. I also want to call the nUnique method. So this is particularly going to come in handy in just a moment, where I want to tell Pandas and Matplotlib how many buckets I want to create. But I can see here that I have 9 total values within my new Panda series. So now let's go ahead and use the plot method. So I'm once again going to extract the high series. I'm going to call the apply method. I'm going to give it the custom round Python function that I wrote. Here are my classifications, and now I want to show this on a distribution. So I'm going to do plot, and this time, predictably, I'm going to change the argument to my kind parameter, but instead of the old ones, I'm going to do hist, H-I-S-T, for histogram. So when I execute this, you can see we're going to get something that looks pretty much what we're going for, but you can see that these numbers below are a little bit offset. So it's not perfectly matching where these big bars are matching the below stuff. So this is something that I've struggled with for hours on end, and there's long Stack Overflow documentations about how to get this problem fixed. What I generally think is an easy solution is just to provide an argument here called bins, and give it the number of the unique number of values within that distribution. So the unique number of buckets, so to speak. So we know that that's 9. So if I do 9 here, It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to give us something that's a little bit closer to what we're looking for, so we can identify where each of these buckets falls in. This is 300, this is 400, this is 500, and so on. And if I go back up to my value counts, you can see that for the first couple we have 157, 414, and 1129 as our counts, and predictably those values are going to be represented for 0, for 100, and 200 right here. So Google stock performance had the most performances within the 200 to 300 range, as we can immediately tell from this column within this histogram distribution. So that's how you create a histogram distribution. Plenty more to dive into, and certainly if you're a statistician, there's a lot more ways that you can fiddle around with this. I'm certainly not a statistical or mathematical wizard by trade, so this is just my general layman's rendering of a histogram. But you can see that this operation and this kind of chart or rendering is possible within Matplotlib, as are a lot of other types. I just wanted to show you that a histogram is possible. If you want to dive into more complex operations, like how to fix this stuff so it appears perfectly in sync in the center of the actual bar itself, you can certainly Google that and Stack Overflow that, and there's plenty of documentation on that. But this is a quick introduction to how you create a histogram with Matplotlib.